The Cold War turned hot in the middle of the 20th century. In 1950, the North Korean army launched an invasion on their countrymen in the south. The year's main event had begun. It was the beginning of the Korean War. The Soviet Union would support North Korea's Stalinist regime, while the United States and its allies rallied behind the South in an attempt to hold back the Red threat. Millions of civilians would be killed or injured by the conflict, and cities would be destroyed. The war would reinforce the separation between communist and capitalist ideologies. Korea, which had once been united, would remain divided for generations to come. Korea had been a Japanese colony since 1910. Following Japan's defeat in the Second World War, the United States and the Soviet Union divided responsibility for Korea at the 38th parallel. It was agreed by the Americans and the Soviets that Korea would govern itself independently after 4 years of international oversight. In the South, a United States military administration under the direction of General Douglas MacArthur controlled the area from its headquarters in Tokyo. American forces liberated the Koreans from the Japanese. However, after 35 years of Japanese rule, most Koreans were opposed to another period of foreign control. Strikes and civil violence broke out. The Soviet forces entered and liberated North Korea soon after the Second World War. There, the Soviet Union fostered a communist regime, forming the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, under the leadership of North Korean General Secretary Kim Il-sung. In the South, elections led to the formation of a democratic government under the leadership of President Syngman Rhee. Both President Rhee and General Secretary Sung wanted to reunite the nation under their own competing political systems and leadership. By the time Soviet troops left the North Korean military was equipped with modern Soviet weaponry and enjoyed substantial advantages over forces in the South. By mid-1950, tensions between the North and South had escalated to the point where two hostile armies were assembled along the border. On June the 25th, the North Korean army finally crossed the 38th parallel. Within days, South Korean forces were in full retreat. On July the 27th, the United Nations Security Council branded the North Koreans as aggressors. Troops from the US and fellow UN member states were sent in. However, the North Korean army was making rapid progress. The capital city, Seoul, fell in less than 1 week, and the army continued its southward drive towards the port of Pusan. By the end of August, only the area around Pusan, about 10% of the Korean peninsula, was still in coalition hands. With the aid of massive American supplies, air support, and additional reinforcements, the UN forces managed to stabilize a line along the Nakdong River, known as the Pusan Perimeter. US supply bases in Japan poured weapons and soldiers into Pusan. By early September, UN forces were decidedly more powerful and outnumbered North Korean troops. The North Korean forces found themselves undermanned and with weak logistical support. They also lacked the substantial naval and air support of the Americans. At this point, the UN and South Korean forces launched a counterattack, pushing the North Korean army back and recapturing Seoul. In early October, UN forces crossed into North Korea. Soon afterwards, the Chinese army entered the war, defending their North Korean comrades. US forces in Northeast Korea were forced to race back southwards. The main event of 1950 had initiated a military and ideological war. The hope of reuniting Korea vanished as the lines between the communist North and the capitalist South were drawn.